since I've been a county commissioner, and issues such as increased traffic, speeding, safety issues related to pedestrians and bicyclists, certainly the semi-truck issues, and a variety of other things, and how our transportation infrastructure in the Northeast corridor is definitely being impacted by some of the proposed developments. So this is a topic that's that we've tried to engage. I think we've had some successes in dealing with the truck traffic and doing the overlay work on Country Club Road from LeMay to Highway 1. So with all that said, tonight is an opportunity for folks to engage, and basically, our purpose tonight is to get information, to provide information, and to hear from you all about the existing conditions and the potential future traffic growth. We definitely want to hear from you, and I'm really glad to be here and to listen and work with our engineering staffs. And credit to Mark Peterson, and also the city engineering folks. And it looks like JC is doing an extraordinary job already of hosting this thing and managing perhaps 100 people that are participating. Thank you all.
Thank you so much, Commissioner. We appreciate you being here. We also appreciate everybody for showing up this evening. We're really excited to have such a big turnout. My name is JC Ward, and I'm with the City of Fort Collins Neighborhood Services. I work on a public engagement team, and I'm a supervisor for our program staff. So I'll be hosting you this evening. I also do have 2 dogs and a baby cat at my house. So I apologize in advance for all of that drama that you will probably get to be a part of. Also with me this evening, we have Yanni Jones, who's a program coordinator in neighborhood services with the City of Fort Collins. And Yanni will be manning our Q&A this evening. So if you have questions, you'll make sure you drop them in the chat. I'll give you some instructions on that a bit later, but Yanni is going to be our behind the scenes person. We have also Mark Peterson, who's the county engineer for Larimer County, where he's responsible for the work of the engineering department, including surveying, engineering design, and construction management of road and bridge improvement projects. The engineering department also deals with transportation planning and traffic operations, infrastructure asset management, public input districts, development review, and floodplain and stormwater management. And Mark has lived in the City of Fort Collins for 50 years and has been a city or county engineer for 24 years. We also have with us the amazing and talented Nicole Hahn, who is with the City of Fort Collins. Nicole is our city traffic engineer and is also one of those very rare Fort Collins natives. So thank you so much for being here tonight, Nicole. And also joining us for the presentation and who will be helping with our polling, we have Jenny Young. Jenny is a principal at FHU, and she serves as the consultant project manager for the Country Club Road Corridor Study. So there are a couple of ways we'll interact this evening. All the participants are currently muted with videos off to limit the background noise and ensure that everyone can hear. Use the chat to submit questions or comments. So try to stay away from that Q&A, try to go toward the chat. If you are experiencing technical issues, you can chat the hosts and panelists directly by clicking chat hosts and panelists. The chat will be monitored by the host and questions will be verbalized during the question and answer session. If you accidentally mix up the Q&A and chat buttons though, that's totally fine. We will be looking at both of those, but we do encourage you to try to stick to the chat. We also will be doing a polling activity that I mentioned a bit earlier. So you will need your smartphone or a separate browser window available to participate. And we'll have those instructions for you right about the time we get ready to do that polling. Our meeting expectations for this evening. Our project staff will listen with an open mind. We will be transparent. We will all share what we know and be honest about what we don't know yet. We will keep presentations and responses as focused as possible to make space for the conversation. We also expect that community members will ask one question at a time in the chat so we can ensure that we get through each question. When writing comments, please speak from your own experiences and use I statements rather than generalizations. And we also want community members and project staff to be respectful of others, even when you disagree. The City of Fort Collins, as one of our co-hosts this evening, we'd like to share our equity statement. The City of Fort Collins is an organization that supports equity for all, leading with race. We acknowledge the role of local government in helping create systems of oppression and racism, and are committed to dismantling those same systems in pursuit of racial justice. This evening, we will be covering an overview of the corridor study, the City of Fort Collins Master Streets Plan, plan developments, and prior community input, current and future conditions overview. We have that polling activity, question and answer, which I'm sure everyone's excited about, and then our demonstration of the commenting map, then some next steps and closing. So other ways that you can continue to engage with this project. This project, the meeting that we're having this evening, we are very early in the stage of a corridor study. So we won't be talking about specific projects or development review. We do want to keep this fairly high level because the folks who are in this meeting need the information from the public to be able to create some options that we'll come back to you with at a later date. So also keep in mind that this is very early in this process, and this evening you will not hear concrete options. You will not hear a concrete plan for moving forward because you are in the early development stages of those conversations. So we will continue on. And I will turn it over to our friend Mark to get us started with the content tonight. Thank you so much, Mark.
Mark, you're on mute. You need to unmute, Mark. And
yes,
would you be kind enough to acknowledge Lori Kadrich?
Yes, so Lori Kadrich, who is the Director of the Community Planning Infrastructure and Resources Services. So she oversees engineering, road and bridge, solid waste, the Fairgrounds and Events Center, and natural resources here at the county. So she's online as well for this meeting. Sorry to be muted. My name is Mark Peterson. I'm the county engineer, and as Commissioner Kafalis noted, Country Club Road has been on our radar for quite some time now as the northeast area of Fort Collins continues to grow. We know that there have been and continue to be concerns about increased traffic volumes, speeding, truck traffic, access to and from Country Club Road from both driveways and adjacent neighborhoods, and a lack of bicycle or pedestrian facilities such as sidewalks or widened shoulders. What we have out here is, the many irrigation reservoirs and the topography in the area have influenced road development, and Country Club Road, which is the blue line on the map here, resides on a half section line, and it's had to be deviated from being a straight line alignment to go around Long Pond, and we've got topography that drops off fairly rapidly as you go south of the lakes as well. So it's one of the few east-west connections we have in the area, and you actually have to go 1.5 miles to the north to Douglas Road or 1.5 miles to the south to LeMay to have comparable east-west movement in the area. Country Club Road also provides access to both city and unincorporated county residents to Valley Elementary School and the King Soopers shopping area. It's also a highly used connection to and from North LeMay Avenue and travel south into Fort Collins. Another complicating factor that we've run into is that Google Maps and other navigation software that commonly optimize routes based on travel time will often recommend a route using Country Club Road as a connection to and from I-25 via the Mountain Vista interchange. We've tried to find ways to get this removed as an option from mapping applications, but have so far been unsuccessful. While we're not here to focus specifically on the proposed Montava development nor the other developments proposed in the area, they do represent potentially significant traffic growth in the area. Larimer County was given an opportunity to provide comments during the city review and approval of the general development plan for Montava, and we've had concerns about what's going to happen to Country Club Road and how will the phasing of development to the east affect traffic growth and volumes on Country Club Road. So recognizing that more development was going to occur out there, and the need for a broader look at the Country Club Road corridor, we worked with our on-call transportation and environmental engineering consultant, that's Felsberg, Holt, and Olveg, to develop a scope of work for this corridor study. And they were given the go-ahead to start the work in late November. and have been in the process of analyzing existing and future traffic conditions. And Fort Collins has partnered with us to help support this study. You know, as you can see on the map, Country Club Road is in the Fort Collins growth management area. A growth management area defines the limits that the city expects to annex at some point in the future, and the development that occurs within that area is expected to be more urban in nature. We don't anticipate that the city is going to annex Country Club Road anytime soon. And so we do have, you know, a county road that is carrying both rural and urban traffic, and it's developing into be more in an urban environment. The other thing I would point out is, and one of the main reasons we work with cities and towns to establish growth management areas is because Larimer County is not an urban level service provider, meaning that we do not characteristically build out nor maintain urban level roadways with streetlights, medians, sidewalks, street trees, underground storm sewer systems, or continuous curb and gutter. And I'm not making this point to be critical of the city in any way. In fact, I'd like to acknowledge that the city of Fort Collins has partnered with Larimer County to collect transportation or traffic impact fees for use on regional roads for the last 20 years, and they're the only municipality in Larimer County that does that. And for example, those funds are being used to widen a section of Taft Hill Road between Harmony and Horsetooth that's out still in unincorporated Larimer County. So as I noted, Fort Collins has agreed to partner with us in looking at Country Club Road, and we've got certainly staff that have been involved with the whole way through. Jenny, if you go to the next slide.
Mark, before you move on, would you please describe what the different colors on the map mean?
Yes, certainly. So this is the functional road classification that the county has. It may not be identical to the city in every way, but the red roads are arterials. And what's being shown is only the county road segments to the point where they enter into the city or have been annexed by the city. So red segments are arterial roadways. Green is a major collector and blue is a minor collector. And then all the other road, either purple or black, are local roads. Next, okay. So this is just a depiction of a timeline for the study. We're here at the first public meeting. As was noted, the purpose is to describe current and future conditions that have been analyzed by Felsberg, Holt, and Ulvig. And we're fortunate to have Jenny Young with FHU be involved in this project. She's been heavily involved in the prior looks at regional roads in the whole of Larimer County. So again, we're fortunate to have her involved in this. I'm going to turn things over to Nicole. Did I see that there was an additional question that popped up, or? Okay, I'm going to turn it over to Nicole with the City of Fort Collins to talk about the city's roadway system.
Well, thank you so much, Mark, and thank you everyone for being here tonight. We so appreciate you taking the time, and we look forward to hearing all of your comments. And also just a thank you to the county for working together on this. I think we both know that the roadway network in this area, as these maps sort of depict, it's very interconnected. So all of this work has to really be done together in order to create a successful network. So we're really excited about this study and being able to work with you all on this. We do have quite a few projects and planned developments in the vicinity that are several of them approved, some of them built currently, and some of them under construction right now. And I'll go ahead and go through the developments, and I can talk a little bit about the master street plan as it relates to those developments. There's a proposed development called Montava that's located at Mountain Vista and Timberline, and that stretches up to Country Club Road along Turnberry Water's Edge West is just right off of Turnberry, and I can't use my pointer, so I don't know, Mark, if you want to try to point some of those out on the map. Country Club Reserve is right at the corner of Douglas and Turnberry. That one's about to start to go under construction here shortly. And then, yeah, so some of the important roadway network connections that are going to be happening with some of this future development will be an extension of Turnberry Road to the south, and that'll connect with Sunica Road. Those roadway connections don't exist today, but those will be really important connections in the future that will help to take some of the pressure off of Country Club Road and sort of find other routes that will help to redistribute some of the traffic and really provide that grid network in the area to help serve all of the traffic that this area experiences. The connection, Mountain Vista will see some improvements in the future with the development of Montava. The intersection of Timberline and Mountain Vista is one we hear quite a bit about. And just in terms of safety and capacity. Obviously, I think we chatted a little bit earlier about some of the issues we see on Country Club roads related to speed, connectivity, access to bike trails, access to the overall bike and pedestrian network that you're very close to downtown, but it's not incredibly accessible by bike or walking, those sorts of things. We also get lots of comments about the ability to access the school and connectivity to the school with bike and pedestrian routes. And overall, I guess some of the comments during the development process that we've heard from the community have been really related to making sure the infrastructure is built sort of with and ahead of the development to make sure we can really facilitate the capacity needs that we'll have with each phase of development. So I'll hand it over. Does that go to you, Jenny?
Yes, thank you. Good evening. I'm going to provide a high-level overview of the current and future conditions, sort of the technical perspective of what we found in the analysis of Country Club Road. So as you saw, both the city and the county use functional classification to describe the function of different types of streets in the overall street network. And then the design standards for the different streets are based on those functional classifications. So Country Club Road is classified as a minor collector in Larimer County's master transportation plan. And that means that it collects the traffic from the local streets to access other parts of the community. There is sometimes a misconception about the role of Country Club Road. It's not a local street. Local streets provide direct access to homes and also have limited connectivity. So while Country Club Road does provide some direct access to homes with driveways fronting onto it, it provides this level of continuity and in fact provides this important east-west connection because there's not a lot of other east-west routes in the system. So local streets are streets more like Longview Drive and Hillside Drive. Those are classified as local streets and connect into Country Club Road. We completed a speed study in November of 2021, and what we found is that most vehicles travel at the posted speed of 30 miles per hour or less. But some vehicles travel significantly above the posted speed as high as 60 miles per hour. And we also looked at some historic speed data, which show a higher occurrence of speeding than the data that is presented on this table and that we recorded in November of 2021. So the bottom line from what the data that we've looked at related to speed is that there is evidence that motorists are traveling above the posted speed limit. And it's appropriate to look at measures to reduce the speeds and reduce speeding as we transition into the identifying alternatives to improve Country Club Road. Currently, Country Club Road carries just under 5,000 vehicles per day west of LeMay and just under 7,000 vehicles per day east of LeMay. These traffic volumes are within typical expectations for a minor collector street. today. We also counted bicyclists and pedestrians along the corridor and found fewer than 20 pedestrians and 10 bicyclists. But I think that the data needs to be taken with a bit of a grain of salt because one, we recorded the data in November. So folks may not have been out on the corridor as much as warmer times of the year. And also we need to recognize that there are no sidewalks or bicycle facilities along Country Club Road. So while this is one piece of information, it does not tell us the true demand for biking and walking along the corridor because those facilities don't exist today. So a lot of people may just feel unsafe using the corridor today. We did some analysis using a regional travel demand model that looks at how growth throughout the region, in the surrounding area, but in the greater, Fort Collins and greater region as a whole, will impact the traffic volumes on streets like Country Club Road. So first we looked at how the traffic is expected to increase with the first phase of Montava. For the section, and we focused this little chart is focused on the section of Country Club Road east of LeMay. So with the first phase of Montava, we anticipate about a 20% increase in the traffic on that section of Country Club Road. And then as development of the surrounding area occurs, those developments that Nicole spoke about, as that occurs over time, the traffic volumes could increase by as much as 60% over current traffic volumes if no street improvements were made. Now, fortunately, the city's master streets plan does include several street connections, network connections, such as the Turnberry extension and Seneca extension that Nicole described, that will really provide considerable relief to Country Club Road. In fact, we estimate that the traffic volumes east of LeMay will be approximately 25% lower than current traffic levels, even with the development of the surrounding areas when that road network is complete to provide that relief to Country Club Road. And I'd just like to point out, as noted on the diagram, the timing of both the development and the street network construction is uncertain. So this is a pretty kind of high level look at the possible implications of the development and the offset associated with constructing the surrounding street network. So as we move into the next phase of the corridor study, where we'll be identifying possible improvements, we want to start by understanding, what problems are we really trying to solve here? So we've drafted 5 problem statements based on the technical evaluation. And the next step that we'll get to here today is we'll be looking to expand and refine these problem statements to include those problems identified by the community. So we really want to be looking at improvements that will address both the technical needs and the community input. So here are the problem statements based on the technical evaluation. For bicyclists and pedestrians with no sidewalks or bike lanes or shoulders, bicyclists and pedestrians lack a safe space to walk or ride along the corridor. Although most vehicles travel at or below the posted speed, some vehicles travel at excessive speeds. So we have a speed problem. The safety problem, 6 intersections on Country Club Road have crash patterns that indicate moderate or high potential for crash reduction. So we'll be looking very closely at those specific crash patterns and where there might be some mitigation opportunities. Growth, the new developments in the surrounding area will lead to increased traffic on Country Club Road until the planned street network connections are made. And then finally, congestion. Increased traffic will lead to longer delays at corridor intersections and fewer gaps for entering from the driveways.
All right, friends, now is the exciting time in our presentation this evening where we will be starting interactive polling. So I would ask that you use your smartphone or open a separate browser window and head over to menti.com. Please use the code 144155530. We will give you just a couple of minutes to get shifted over, and then we'll start with some polling questions. I would like to remind you to please drop your questions in the chat. And we also will be monitoring for comments, and those will all be, they won't be read aloud this evening, but those will be noted and included in the planning packets for this project. So please feel free to put comments into that chat as well. All right, so you're seeing our live screen of menti.com for our polling this evening. So our first question, what option best describes where you live? The city of Fort Collins, unincorporated Larimer County. I can't see the rest of the, sorry, the unincorporated Larimer County. There we go. My address is Country Club Road and other.
Somebody asked for the code to be stated again.
Sure, the code is, I actually don't have it on my copy. Jenny, can you pull up the code really quickly? Oh, sorry, it's at the top. Hello.
Yeah, it should be at the top of the screen.
All right, 1441553. It takes a whole team to do this, you guys. Thank you so much. All right, it looks like we're getting a few more people coming into Menti, so we will just give you a few more seconds. Again, this one's our demographic information. We want to be able to take a look at who's in the room tonight and then line that up with some of the other information that we'll be gathering this evening. So thank you so much for your participation. We will have just probably 3 or 4 questions, so don't feel like it's a pop quiz. Jenny, if we're having some trouble getting Mentimeter to load, is there a way that people can put their answers in the chat that would be visible to panelists?
Yes, that would be great. And you might just try refreshing on Menti to see if it will load. If that code is not working for you, we can just use the chat and we can enter that in manually.
All right. We are at 100 people. That seems like a great number. Oh, not 101. This is exciting, you guys. We'll give folks just a couple more seconds to weigh in on this one, and then we're going to shift to our next question. All right, in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. All right, our next question. How often do you currently use Country Club Road? Multiple times per day, daily, weekly, or sporadically? All right, it looks like people are getting really fast at this. We'll give folks a couple more seconds, then we'll do a countdown. All right, in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. This one will be fun. So what 3 words would you use to describe Country Club Road today? And you will need to type these answers in. And the magic machine is going to pop out an amazing word cloud, a piece of art for us to see how people are feeling. Because this one involves a little bit more work on your side, we're going to leave this one up for a few extra seconds. But it looks like we're getting pretty close. And thank you all so much for continuing to drop the answers in the chat if you're having trouble with Minty. And for folks just joining us, the web address and code for the polling is at the top of the page. All right, friends, it looks like our art piece has stopped moving. Thank you so much for that. That's the hardest we're going to make you work on these. All right, and we'll move forward to the next one. Okay, another fun new one to try. Please rank the following priorities from most important to least important: reducing delays, improving safety, and maintaining the existing character of Country Club Road. Jenny, could you give us a little bit of insight on what maintaining the existing character means on this one?
So that might mean, keeping it the way it is today, and enjoying, the way it functions today and the way that people interact with the street today, how you experience the street, and not making a lot of, overhauls to the corridor.
Great, thank you so much. And we do have several slides to rank priorities. These do not necessarily include every single priority that we will need to consider or priorities that members of the public may have. So we're hoping to get additional information on these from our question and answer period and from the comments that you have. So just want to make a note that although we tried our best based on previous experiences and what we've heard already so far, we tried our best to put those priorities on here to get a feel from you guys, but please know that these are not all encompassing or all inclusive. All right, it looks like we are at about 99 folks. So let's go ahead and shift to the next one. Please rank the following priorities from most important to least important: reducing travel speeds to improve safety, improving intersections to reduce delays, and improving crossings for bicyclists and pedestrians. We'll give just a few more seconds on this one. It looks like we are getting close to having everybody participate. All right, we'll do a countdown. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. All right, please rank the following priorities from most important to least important: making it easier to turn on and off Country Club Road, adding space for bicyclists, adding space for pedestrians, and building the surrounding street network to minimize impacts to Country Club Road. And we'll give you a little extra time on this one because our options, we have one extra option and they're a little longer than before. So we'll give a few more extra seconds. We are getting pretty close to having everybody weigh in on this one. I'll give just a couple more seconds. All right, in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Okay, now's your chance to put it all together from the previous few slides. So of all the options presented to you in the previous questions, which 3 are the most important to you? Sorry, I got excited and didn't read you the answers. Reducing travel speeds to improve safety, improving intersections to reduce delays, improving crossings for bicyclists and pedestrians. Oh, and now I've lost my entire screen. Great. Keep reading, talk amongst yourselves. Okay, and we're back. Sorry, improving crossings for bicyclists and pedestrians, making it easier to turn on and off Country Club Road, adding space for bicyclists, adding space for pedestrians, building the surrounding street network to minimize impacts to Country Club Road, and maintaining the existing character of Country Club Road. That's a lot of information to process at once. Thank you guys so much. You're doing great. And it looks like we're pretty close, Jenny, to having everybody weigh in. So I'll give you a countdown from 3. How about that? 3, 2, 1. All right. What is the one thing you would like to see for Country Club Road in the future? This is another one where you're going to type. And we'll give a little extra time for this one as well, because I know it takes a little longer when when you have to add it in yourselves. And I'm sorry we don't have music for this part. It looks like we have most folks chiming in. We'll give you a few more seconds. All right. Thank you all so much for weighing in with the polling. And as a reminder, any comments that you leave in the chat, especially for those folks who are having some trouble accessing the polling website, we will make sure that those end up in all of the information and analysis that we do for this project and all of the public comments. All right, my friends, and now we are to the big event, our question and answer. So we do want to make sure that we're hearing questions. We're going to try to categorize some of them, and this is kind of what we're looking for, some information and feedback from you about specifically. We also know that these topics are not going to encompass every question that you have, and you may have some clarification questions about the presentation. That's great as well. So our friend Yanni is monitoring the chat and the question and answer. And we'll be reading those out loud, specifically some of the topic areas that we really need to gather some feedback on for this part of the corridor study are safety, speeds and congestion, bicycle and pedestrian issues, and the surrounding street network. You may recognize all three of those from our exciting polling questions that we've just had. And then if there are other questions that folks have, again, feel free to put those into the chat. And with that, I'm going to open it up to Yanni for our first question. And also presenters, if I can just remind you, if there's an answer that you would like to give or you would like to be called on, just unmute yourself and then I'll call on you to answer that one. Thank you.
Hello. So I have been monitoring the chat and I've been collecting all of your questions and trying to categorize them into these categories. So we're going to start with what I have in safety, speeds, and congestion, and then we'll move on to the other topics. And then I will review the chat again for additional questions. So our first question is, what is the design capacity of Country Club Road?
That Mark would like to take that one.
Well,
Mark?
I'll try. So from a transportation master planning standpoint, we look at road capacities and they're defined based on whether or not there are shoulders of varying width and whether or not it's in a urban or rural setting. And so our transportation master plan uses those values to identify when improvements might need to be made in terms of widening a road by adding on wider shoulders or going to a 3-lane section. It's really focusing on vehicular capacity, so it's not getting at pedestrian or bicycle uses. And when you start to look at a 2-lane road in a functioning in more of an urban setting with shoulders that are somewhere around 3 feet, we're going to be in excess of 10,000 vehicle trips a day. I can go pull, I'll go try and pull the table that's actually used in our transportation master plan and give you more exact numbers. But that's used for a planning guide in terms of when we look at kind of long-term needs across our road system.
Thanks, Mark. It also looks like Jenny maybe had something to add to that. Jenny?
I had the chart pulled up and
Okay, she's
the
a
number
step
is
ahead of me.
close to as Mark said, it's 10,700 is the approximate capacity.
Great, thank you both so much. Yanni, what do you have next for us?
We also had a number of questions about the classification of the road. Several people think that the road is underclassified in terms of its connection to other major connections, school, shopping, and other things. People would like to know if it is possibly actually an arterial road or if there is a chance for an upgrade for the road.
Looks like Mark.
Guess I'll take a stab at that one as well. Oh,
Mark and Nicole both have something
Nicole,
to say, so
yeah.
Mark, we'll have you go first.
Well, Nicole, you want to go first?
Sure, either way we can. So I would say I just, in terms of function, it really provides that critical connection through that really functions much like an arterial would, right? So it really provides that connectivity. And so I think in the future master street plan that we looked at where there are other grid network connections, the classification is probably appropriate for the long-term classification. But in terms of, what it is doing today, it probably is underclassified for how it's performing today. And I'll let you, hopefully that doesn't disagree with anything you're going to say, Mark.
Well, when you look at functional classification, you're sort of balancing accessibility with mobility. So as you go to higher classifications, the access spacing increases, travel speeds very often increase. You're designing a roadway to limit the number of access points and focus more on mobility. So it maybe is toward the low end of how it's classified, but we do have a lot of residential driveways that take direct access onto the roadway. And it's a fairly narrow corridor that's also got, curvature to it and is bounded by a lake. So, that kind of goes to the classification as well. And when we reclassify a road, it also goes to setbacks and other things that have impacts on adjacent properties. So those are all things you have to look at as you consider the classification of the road.
Thank you. Next, somebody is wondering if semi trucks on country club roads are identified as a problem.
Guess me again.
You're taking that one.
So certainly we went through the process of basically implementing first a temporary ban or moratorium on use of semi trucks, and then the commissioners voted to institute a ban on semi trucks on Country Club Road except for local deliveries. So they are currently prohibited. There's no way to enforce 100% compliance. But I believe, the numbers have been reduced dramatically from what they were. Have they been totally eliminated? No.
Thank you, Mark. We appreciate your candor. Yanni, what's next for us?
A related question that just came in, is it possible that cameras could be put in to monitor and ticket semi-truck traffic?
That's really a question for law enforcement. To my knowledge, the Larimer County Sheriff's Office doesn't have any camera enforcement capabilities or use traffic cameras.
Thanks, Mark. This is a question for Jenny. Is the traffic loading, or does the traffic loading consider the fact that the intersection of Mountain Vista and I-25 is scheduled to have a middle school and high school?
I can't speak specifically to what is included there, but we do use the regional travel demand model, which accounts for all of the planned growth in the area. So I expect that probably is included because the city and the county coordinate their land use plans with the Metropolitan Planning Organization, the North Front Range Metropolitan Planning Organization that runs, that develops the model. So the land use forecasts are regularly updated by the city and the county. So I expect that it probably is included in the model, but we could verify that.
Thank you, Jenny. Appreciate that. Yanni, what's up next?
Up next,
Came off mute. Sorry, Yanni. Looks like Nicole came off mute. Did you have something to add, Nicole?
Yeah, I was just going to mention that when those improvements come, we'll perform a traffic study with those as well. So any new additions or any changes in use will be studied at the time of those developments. So that development would look at the system and make any necessary improvements at that time. So when the schools come in, that would be studied at the time of that development.
Thank you, Nicole. Sorry about that, Yanni. Thanks so much for holding on. What do you have?
So next, we actually had another question about speed cameras. Is it possible to have speed cameras added at crucial locations? Mark, would you like to speak to that one?
Again, I think the county would have to adopt a speed camera enforcement program. So that's about all I know on the subject. The city has adopted and does use speed cameras permanently mounted at some intersections, and you've got portable or vehicle mounted. But I believe that was adopted by city ordinance, or it's a whole program that the city administers or contracts for.
Okay, thank you, Mark. Another question is, Is the county planning to improve this road to city standards?
Well, I think the purpose of this meeting and what we're going to do for the next phase of the project is to kind of look at what's needed, what could be done, what's practical, possible, what would it cost? I mean, there's a whole multitude of things that have to be looked at. So I don't have an answer, for that.
Thank you very much, Mark. Somebody is wondering if it's possible to redesign Country Club Road / FCCC three-way stop into a roundabout.
I see Mark unmuted.
Well, I'm still unmuted. I guess I need to know what it said, FCCC. I'm not sure what location that's referencing.
FCCC Country Club, Fort Collins Country Club. I see. Thank you, everybody.
Oh, so at that intersection, that would certainly be a possibility that ought to be looked at, because that is a problem location from the standpoint of turning and potentially backing up traffic at the stop sign. And there may be ways to make that a better functioning and safer intersection.
Thank you. I'm trying to keep up with all the questions in the chat. Thank you for bearing with me, everybody. The next question is, could Country Club Road or Fort Collins Country Club intersection be redesigned so that semi trucks cannot navigate through it?
I don't know that that's practical. I mean, you don't want a situation where if some truck gets on that road to that point, they're stuck and you jam up traffic and cut off access and emergency response and everything else. So
okay, thank you for that response. There's a question for Nicole. Studying the traffic after schools are built seems a bit late. Is it possible that traffic could be predicted better?
Yeah, absolutely. I apologize if I wasn't clear with that. So at the time that new schools are built, before they're built, we do a full analysis of the impact of the traffic that those schools will create. So I think that the question was about future schools that are planned, and when those schools are developed, we will study the traffic for those. So sorry if that wasn't clear.
Thank you, Nicole. Yanni, how are you doing?
We're doing pretty good, but we have several more questions in this category because they're coming in the chat, so I'm trying to grab them. But I think what I'm going to do is finish up what I have currently in this section, move on to the next one, so those questions are also addressed, and then we'll go back to the questions that are just coming into the chat.
That's great.
So we have now, will infrastructure improvements be required to be put in place before the development of housing takes place and all that traffic hits the road?
Yes, so with each phase of development, there are certain improvements that are required, and those improvements are typically required before the building can take occupancy. So that means before anyone can move in and live there and it starts to generate typical traffic, they would have to have their improvements built. Sometimes there are exceptions to that rule, but that's pretty typical practice for us.
Thanks, Nicole. Next we have when Suniga, I may be pronouncing that wrong, is fully developed. How do you anticipate that would impact this road?
Yeah, absolutely. So when Suniga is fully developed and it connects to Turnberry, or to, sorry. I apologize. Use the wrong.
Timberline?
No, to Turnberry, sorry. When that connection is made and Turnberry is extended down to Suniga, that'll really function as sort of that arterial level grid network. So Suniga will be a 4-lane arterial roadway, and that'll really carry that east-west traffic. That Country Club really carries a significant portion of that today. So we would likely see a shift of traffic over to that section of Suniga once Turnberry is extended down and Suniga is extended east. So I think it's a really important long-term connection to be made when we're talking about Country Club. I think that's one of the most important connections that we're really looking to in the future that could help really bring a lot of relief to Country Club.
There's a safety related concern and question. Toward the east end of Country Club Road, there's a few areas where water puddles on the high side for many days after water events. Can the county do anything to mitigate this and extend the life of the pavement?
That would certainly be something to look at if we're doing any, kind of conceptual design or layouts of road improvements. But that would be something that you would be looking at when you dove into more detail.
I see. Thanks, Mark.
Looks like Nicole had something to add to that one.
Yeah, I was just noticing there were a couple of questions about that connection of Turnberry and Suniga and the timeline for that. That's one that we do have some offer budget requests in right now to see if we can start some of the design for that work. They're not funded improvements at this point, and they likely, some of them would happen with development being sort of a trigger for those, but we are working on getting some design in place sort of ahead of the need coming. So in terms of a timeline, we don't have an exact timeline, and we will be looking at that with each phase of new development that comes in. So any additional phases of Montava at this point, we would look at those connections as being those sort of being the time when we would need to install.
Thanks, Nicole. So I'm moving into the surrounding streets related questions. And I suppose this one is where I put this, but I'm not sure if it really fits. Is the city planning to enact any eminent domain to take property needed for road expansions?
That's a tough question. There's a lot of different improvements shown on our master street plan. So I couldn't say, holistically, no, that wouldn't be a needed tool to make that full master street plan come into fruition. I will say that a lot of times we do improve the roadways with development because the developers can then grant that property with development. And so that's oftentimes why some of those things are installed with development. So it is something that, it does happen with roadway projects and improvements where we have to purchase property on occasion.
Thanks, Nicole. Next we have, is there any chance a corridor could be open to Tavelli? School traffic causes significant congestion on Country Club Road.
Do we have any takers for that one? Is that something we don't know at this
Can you
point?
repeat the first part of that question, Yanni? Sorry, I missed the first part.
Is there any chance that a corridor could be opened to Tavelli, which I believe is a school? I'm not 100% sure though.
Yeah, and I'm not sure if that's a bike and pedestrian corridor or kind of what that person was wondering. I don't know, Mark, if you.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, the only thing I think of is they're asking about ped or bike, because I don't know. I mean, you've got established neighborhoods in that whole area that we already have challenges with drop off in, school traffic going through those neighborhoods.
I think one thing we're very aware of is sort of the need for pedestrian and bike infrastructure to get kids to school at Tavelli. So I think that's one of the things that we absolutely are aware of and are looking, I think, with this study and other improvements in the area to improve.
All right, so next we have, is Conifer going to be extended east also?
Yes, Conifer will be extended to the future Giddings network. And I don't know if we want to go to that slide of the master street plan, but Conifer is planned to be extended east as well as Suniga. Here we go. So Conifer's that, I don't know if somebody has a mouse they can put on the screen, but yeah, just yep, right north of Suniga. So that one's the Conifer extension would go to Giddings.
Thank you. And so our next question is, do your plans include upgrading the four-way stop at Clubview Road and LeMay Gregory to a four-way stop or light?
Mark, I see you're off mute. Would you like to take this
I
one?
guess I'm still off mute.
It looks like Jenny also came off.
It's all
Jenny, you
stuff
wanna
we'll have to
start?
look at. Yeah, I mean, there aren't any immediate plans, but it's all things that have to be considered as we look at the corridor. What are the needs?
And these intersections are also being studied with the development. So we're including that intersection in particular is in the Montava traffic study for the first phase of development that's coming in, and does show the eventual need for some sort of improvements there.
Thank you. Next, where can we find information about the street network plan?
Yeah, so the master street plan that's shown here, Yanni, I'm gonna put it in the chat to everyone, a link to the website. It's on the city's website and it's called the master street plan. So I'll go ahead and put that in the chat to everyone.
We do have about 15 minutes left in our question and answer portion before we demonstrate the comment map and then wrap up for the day. So I want to make sure that we get in questions as those are coming in. Make sure you put comments in the chat as well. And Yanni, what do you have next for us?
We're going to take some of the bike pedestrian related questions now. What is the size of the right of way, and is it enough to provide a separated bike path?
Right away varies somewhat along the corridor. Typically, as a minimum, the county has 60 feet of right of way. That's not guaranteed, but that's what has to be looked at, is what could be done within existing right of way versus what might need additional right of way width to support, say, a different alternative, totally detached, pedestrian bicycle trail or something like that.
There's also a question about the character of the road. Can the road's character be enhanced via a terrace or overhang along Long Pond for bikes, pedestrians, for enhanced views of lakes and mountains? They suggest using state lottery funds or something else, maybe.
Again, a good idea, something that could be looked at. You have to obviously work with the irrigation company, to work through something like that. And it's a fairly expensive proposition, but there may be the kind of funding to support that kind of alternative.
There are a number of questions about the analysis that was mentioned in the presentation. Specifically, when were the measures for this analysis done? Was it done during COVID, for example, which may have impacted those numbers? And is there a plan to do analysis since the new overpass has opened?
So all of the data that was collected for the study was done in November of 2021. So, it was certainly, during the pandemic. As I mentioned earlier, maybe not the best weather. So, we have to take the data that we have, with a grain of salt. But we also the county keeps historic records of the traffic volumes. So we've also looked at, pre-pandemic traffic volumes and interestingly found that, some sections have experienced higher traffic volumes than we recorded in November, and some sections were lower than what we recorded. So it kind of, varies over time, and it's hard to predict how the travel patterns will, might change or settle in, as we move into this kind of next phase of the pandemic and beyond. So we collected the data as we had it available, in November, but we recognize that there are some nuances that we need to take into account. And we don't have any plans to do, another set of data collection specifically for the study.
And I would just add that the county engineering department, we do traffic counts on this roadway every 2 years. And we're now using classifiers to do that counting. So we will be picking up data on speed, volumes of traffic broken down by hourly basis, direction of travel, and even some data on vehicle type. So there will be more data kind of collected on a routine basis across the entire county network.
Thank you. We have a question or a couple of questions about the use of the road daily. How many people use this road daily? Is it more on work days or on weekends?
I can, hang on, let me pull the data. We did do counts on both a weekday and a Saturday. And the Saturday traffic volumes are just a little bit lower than the weekday volumes. So like the section east of LeMay, where we have about 6,800 vehicles per day on the weekday, that number is about 6,300 on the weekend, so just a little bit lower. And similarly, west of LeMay, the weekday volume is about 4,900 and the Saturday volume is about 4,400. So about 500 fewer vehicles per day on the Saturday compared to the weekday.
Thank you. I'm hopping back into the chat now. What traffic calming devices are being considered?
So we'll be looking at a variety of different options. We do need to look at what type of control is warranted, like a signal, for example. We need to look at whether the traffic volumes warrant a signal. And then, we'll look at different options to that are best suited to both for the operations of the traffic, as well as for to meet the demands of the pedestrian and bicycle crossing, and to make those as safe as possible with traffic control.
Are there other examples of traffic control measures that are traffic calming measures that have worked in other parts of the county or the city, just for folks who might not be familiar with that term?
We haven't, the county hasn't characteristically done traffic calming on the mainline county road system. Those measures are more commonly used in local residential roadways. The city has, I believe, more experience looking at other traffic calming measures. You can, try to narrow up lanes or things like that. to try to reduce vehicular speeds.
And I apologize, JC, my computer froze there just for a second. So were you asking about traffic calming tools that we use? Is that?
Yes, just for some examples for folks who might not be familiar with that term.
Yeah, absolutely. So we use a variety of different tools to help slow traffic and really help make people, especially in a situation like this where there are single family home accesses and it's a lower sort of speed road, we'll use bulb outs, which are really where we extend the curbs out a little bit to narrow up the road, sort of right where pedestrians cross. That's beneficial for a couple of reasons. It helps shorten the crossing distance for pedestrians using the connection, and it helps to sort of squeeze the road a little bit. So as cars go through, they slow down because the lanes are a little bit more narrow. We also use raised crosswalks, speed bumps, and speed radar signs, which I think are out there on Country Club today. So some of those tools are already deployed.
Thank you so much, Nicole. We do have just about 7 minutes or so left with our question and answer time this evening. And I want to remind folks that we've had hundreds of questions actually at this point come in through the chat. So we might not get to all of them this evening. Please do be patient as we try to work through these and try to combine as many as possible or cover the topics. And I see Commissioner Kafalis, you also had something you'd like to add.
Thank you, JC. Yanni, could you read the question that was directed to me? I can't keep up with all the input that's in the chat. So I caught the first part, something about the relationship between the county and the city. And there was a second part. Would you be kind enough to read that, please?
I've got that one pulled up if you need me, Yanni.
If you have it pulled up, JC, please go ahead.
Sure. For Commissioner Kafalis, is the relationship between the county and the city healthy? Second part, are there plans to incorporate this area into the city, complete with underground utilities, etc.?
I can answer the first question, and I would say, in general, yes, the relationship between the city and the county is healthy. I suppose it depends on your definition of healthy. Although speaking from a technical standpoint and my understanding of the work that's gone on to to help facilitate this this Country Club Road study, I would say yes. As far as plans to incorporate or annex that part of the in the growth management area, I don't know what the specific plans are for that. I think Mark or Nicole have suggested that might be in the future offerings, but at this point, I am not aware.
Thank you, Commissioner Kafalis. We have another question. Is it possible that nothing could happen, that the extension of Country Club corridor could be stopped as well as any further growth?
I'll start. I think there are several plans that have been approved for this area that are likely to happen. And I think that does include Montava has been generally approved, and that would include the extension of Country Club Road. And so I think there are absolutely opportunities, and we can probably count on JC to help maybe provide some information about how people get involved in the development process with the city. So we can put some information in the chat for everyone on how you get involved in future development projects. But I think there are some that have been approved. And certainly I think engagement in that process always results in better outcomes in the end. So I think that the projects always seem to improve and become better for the community when the community is involved in those project approval processes. So I'll put some information about the development review website in the chat so you all can have access to that.
Great, thank you so much, Nicole. It looks like we do have time. A couple more questions. Yes.
JC, sorry, if I might just add to that.
Sure.
I think that Mark showed early on with the growth management area or what we would call the urban growth management area, significantly surrounding the Country Club Road and the existing rural subdivisions that are in place today, lends itself to further development in the future. I mean, if you just look at that boundary, you're going to see there's going to be increased development, and that was a planned process. And so, you know, our goal all along is to develop those transportation systems that support that urban growth boundary. And that boundary has been in place since the early 80s. And both the county elected officials and the city elected officials have worked closely to plan out respective growth in those areas. So less growth in the rural areas and more and denser growth in the urban boundaries, very similar to all the other communities that are within Larimer County.
Thank you so much. And I apologize, Laura, you're just off to the side of my screen. So is there anything else that you wanted to weigh in on this evening? Because I haven't seen if you've unmuted, and I'm so sorry about that.
No, thank you.
Sure, thank you so much. We do have time for maybe 1-2 more questions. Yanni, what have you got for us?
I have a question about Turnberry. Will Turnberry remain a 2-lane road?
Yes, that is the plan for that. Let me just double check the master street plan here really quick.
Well, Nicole is looking at that. So for the purposes of saving time, what are our best options for speed management at this time?
Go for it, Jenny. You beat me.
Well, I think we talked earlier about some of the different types of traffic calming treatments, and those are the types of things that we're going to be looking at, and the effectiveness of how those might work on different sections of the corridor, and kind of weighing, taking into consideration everything that we've heard here this evening and the values that we've heard from the community. So we'll look at those different types of things, whether it's narrowing the travel lanes, adding bicycle and pedestrian facilities, which might tighten up those travel lanes, looking at, pinch points, kind of bulb out type of configurations, those types of things. And then during the next phase of engagement, we'll share those ideas with the community to get feedback on those ideas.
Thanks, Jenny. There were a number of questions or comments related to this topic. How do we make sure that all of this relevant city departments, the county, the Poudre School District, CDOT, and all are all continuing to coordinate together on this project proactively?
Well, it's really starting, or continuing, I should say. It's not starting with the corridor study, it's continuing, and this is giving us a better basis to know, what do we need to look at going forward together? What are the needs? What are the possibilities? What are the issues we need to try to address?
Thanks, Mark. And Nicole, as the last thing, I think we've run out of time right now, but can you answer that 2-lane road question?
Yes. Yes. So it is 2-lane. I wanted to make sure it was all the way from Douglas to Suniga. It'll be a 2-lane arterial roadway.
Thank you.
Hey, Yanni,
Thank
could I
you.
point out, I know there's some questions about the future for the LeMay Country Club intersection, and that is an intersection that we will start, looking at a design for what needs to be done there to either potentially signalize it or put in some type of roundabout to improve the intersection function and move it from being a 4-way stop.
Thank you so much, panelists, and thank you, participants, for all of your questions and the really thoughtful answers this evening. Again, I'd like to remind you that there will be multiple opportunities to weigh in, especially as we get some options more concrete based on the information that we're gathering today. I believe that Jenny also has some information about one of the next steps that you can take, the website and the comment map. And Jenny's going to take just a couple of minutes and show us how exactly that works, because it is new technology for a lot of us.
Sure. So the website for the corridor study is shown on the screen right now, and maybe we could include that in the chat as well. So I will show you. Let's get out of Mentimeter. So this is the corridor study website, and if you go down here where it says comment using this interactive map and click that, it'll open another browser window and take you to this commenting map. And you can just click get started now. And it provides a little bit of instruction for you on the left. And then what you can do is, you can zoom in. There's an aerial map for the background, so you can see all of the streets and uses along the corridor. And then what we hope that you'll do is grab one of these 5 icons: safety, traffic, biking, walking, other, and you can just move it, drag it right down to a specific location along the corridor. And then a little pop-up box will show up, and you can provide your comment here. You can leave your contact information and your email. You can even attach a picture if you want to. And then you'll click add comment. And so this allows for you to provide very location-specific comments. You could write about concerns that you have along the corridor, ideas that you have to improve, specific locations. And you can see there are icons here where folks have already started to comment on the corridor. And this allows you to look at what other folks have said too. So you can click on other people's comments. You can read those, and you can like or dislike those comments. You can start a discussion about those, so we can kind of have an ongoing dialogue within this commenting map. And our plan is to leave this commenting map open and accessible to everyone for the next couple weeks, so that we can gather these really kind of location-specific comments on the corridor.
Jenny, we had a question about whether people should put a second icon in. If somebody already has put an icon in the area of concern, should you put a second icon in, or still make the note?
You can do it either way. We'll get the comments either way. So you can either add your own comment, or if you want to add on to that other person's comment, or like that comment. If you agree with what the person said, you can like the comment, and then we'll know that there were multiple folks that agreed with that comment. Whatever your preference is, we'll get it either way.
A lot of information in the chat as well. So we have the website with a bit of a lengthy name. We have our development review process and emails. We have some links out to some of the maps or master plans and studies. Is there a way to consolidate those just for follow-up for folks to post those potentially on the corridor study website? Okay,
absolutely, we can do that. Yep.
I just don't want to lose all of that when we end the call this evening. I know we had a lot of information kind of packed in there. All right, thanks so much, Jenny. We appreciate that. All right, friends. So as a reminder, go and make those comments. The map will be available for the next 2 weeks until March the 18th. So make sure that you go in and get those comments in. I love the idea of taking some photographs as well. Those tell a story that often we don't get to see when we look at data analysis. So feel free to drop those in. Again, make sure you do it before March the 18th. Also, we will be using this input to help develop our next steps. So if you remember from the beginning of our evening together, Mark mentioned that our current and future conditions analysis has been completed. We're currently at the March the 3rd public meeting. We're going to take all of this information that will be used in combination with the technical analysis to develop improvement alternatives. Those alternatives, or some more concrete options, will be developed and evaluated, and then those will be presented to you at the next public meeting. And I apologize for having so many points of engagement for this one, but it's so crucial that we get a weigh in from the public at each phase of this process. So I do appreciate your continued engagement in this project and your continued interest and passion for this space. The next public meeting will happen the end of April or early May. Then there will be recommendations that are compiled from that, from engagement opportunities and from additional analysis. And then there will be another public meeting in mid-June. So make sure that you keep all of your communication channels open. We'll also try to make sure that we keep the corridor plan website up to date so that you can still visit there. It looks like we have a question about virtual meetings. So in our heart of hearts, we would love to be in person as much as is humanly possible. To schedule this one, although now we are at a low risk for COVID community, I want to say contagion or community COVID rates, we are pretty low right now, but as we were planning, we were not in that space. So we were still at a pretty high rate because of Omicron. So fingers crossed, everyone, that we will try to do things in person as much as humanly possible. We would love to see you and hang out. And we know that that's such a really nice way to connect and engage. Otherwise, the next public meeting, again, we will be presenting some more of those concrete ideas. There will be a little bit more information that you'll be able to comment on. And I'm going to open it to our panelists if there's any last minute things that people would like to say. I see Yanni waving at me. Do you want to say something, Yanni?
Yes, please. So there are a number of people who are interested in getting a copy of either the chat log or a recording of this meeting video if possible. Mark, is it possible to make those materials available on the county website for the project?
Sorry, muted again. Yes, we will look into getting that taken care of.
Thank you. And if you would send that to my email as well, if anyone emails me, I can make sure that you get that link. I'll put my email address in the chat.
Great, thanks, Yanni. And I did want to just make a clarifying point. Sorry, when I was saying I was so excited to be back in person with people, I also want to acknowledge that from an equity perspective, having some virtual engagement opportunities and having a virtual component to that has been really critical over the last 2 years for us to get folks into the door, into the tent, so to speak, have a conversation who had not really been participating in these processes before, just across the city and across the county. So we are going to be mindful as we're designing engagement opportunities that we know not everybody's going to be in the same comfort level, and that we also know that it's been really great for some folks to participate virtually. So I just wanted to clarify. And then in our last couple of seconds, anybody have parting thoughts or wisdom they would like to share with the rest of the group?
JC, I was hoping that I could just encourage people to hang in there and continue to support in this joint study that both the city and the county have engaged in. When I was glancing through some of the comments, some folks seemed skeptical that we were willing to listen to what people had to say. I just want to emphasize that that is the key reason that we hired someone to do a study in this area, so that we could hear what folks have to say and explore other options, and then have people be able to weigh in on what their preferences are for those options as we move forward. So absolutely, the city and the county are interested in what folks have to say and what their experiences are on the corridor. This is a similar process to what either agency uses as we develop new infrastructure. And so please hang in there. I know that many of you have been involved in a lot of comments to either the city or the county through the development process or other processes. But this is a serious effort on the part of both agencies to hear what people have to say, to record that, and to evaluate the options that might be available using a third party and the good work of Jenny Young and her company.
Very well said. I have nothing to add. That was perfect, Lori. Thank you again so much for joining us this evening, everybody, and thank you, panelists. Good night, City County. Thanks so much, everybody. Mark,